Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about trends in cybersecurity, about how technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning are driving next-gen cybersecurity. To talk about that, I'm joined by Rob Cataldo, Managing Director North America for Kaspersky. Rob, happy Friday to you, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, James. Thanks very much. Happy Friday to you as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, what sort of week has it been this week? I've heard there's a major snowstorm coming your way.
Yeah, it's been an incredibly busy week. We're gearing up for our own regional sales kickoff. So there's a lot of great work and thought going into that. We're excited about it, kicking off a brand new year. And yes, we are slated where I live, just north of Boston. We're supposed to get about 18 to 24 inches of snow over the next couple of days, which makes it definitely interesting times.
Yikes. All right. Well, uh, let's take a look at what's driving the cybersecurity market these days. What are a couple of key trends? In particular, how is the focus on artificial intelligence and machine learning driving the cybersecurity market?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up AI and machine learning. So I myself, I'm not, there are differing opinions on this. I'm not convinced that artificial intelligence per se has necessarily arrived yet. I think
Right.
when people think of that concept, they envision something akin to singularity, or I guess what's also called artificial general intelligence. So a system that's really capable of human level thinking. And then the
Right.
fear is that potentially someday that could actually outdo the capabilities of human thinking. So I think
Sure.
that, especially in the context of cybersecurity, we can more accurately characterize this as machine learning. And when it comes to ML, it's really about automation and scale and efficiency. And again, in the context of cyber, it's the primary technique that solution providers can leverage to detect threats at scale. So if you take a security operations center as an example, the first layer of defense is always these automated hunts that leverage machine learning or trained algorithms to operate at scale and to do hopefully a very effective job at arriving at verdicts on an automated basis. And then in response to that, there can be a straightforward response. It can be detect and block, detect and remove, detect and isolate, or even detect and roll back the effects. But on other occasions, once you've used the machine learning, and again, hopefully it's effective, it's been trained in the right direction, it's ingested a lot of data over the years to become good at what it's supposed to do. A lot of those detections, the more advanced ones, will then require a level of human intervention to further explore what's going on, to validate it, and then potentially to do forensics and clean it up. So it's been a big driver in the industry for sure, around how effective is your machine learning to automate those processes and bring a level of scale to security operations.
It's interesting you had mentioned machine learning. It seems like the bad guys have machine learning these days, which is sort of that's bad news. It's too bad that they have it. Sometimes I wonder, are the bad guys almost pulling ahead? There's so many breaches, and of course ransomware, which we'll get to in a moment.
Mm.
Are the hackers winning against the companies these days? I mean, I probably can't answer the question, but it's like who's ahead these days?
Yeah, hard to say.
Yeah.
We have so many examples of threats, and now supply chain threats, and ransomware is a hot topic for sure.
Mhm.
And I mean, in reality, we hear about these threats a lot. So many of them are highly publicized. They make headlines, and that's what we're conditioned to know about and to think about. But in reality, I think the positive aspect of this is that there are many organizations who have really learned to strategically prioritize investment and proper investment in cyber, and they're doing a remarkably good job of defending their organization against these types of threats, such that they may not necessarily have a silver bullet of prevention against it, but when these types of incidents do happen, they do a really good job of mitigating the impact, and those are the ones that we don't hear about. So I think that there is a silver lining to a lot of the headlines that we see.
Right. I guess that's really true. We don't hear about the good news, of course. So people are actually succeeding in a certain front, but we don't hear about the successes. Um, Talk about ransomware. Let's drill down to that in just a moment. Why has ransomware remained such a stubborn problem? It seems like we're no closer to stopping it than we were the last couple of years. What's your take on that?
Yeah, based on the uptick of events that we do hear about, it would
Mhm.
seem that way. I think that much of that is attributable to that particular threat category's evolution or even reinvention.
Mhm.
So when these types of ransomware threats, these extortion threats began, they would simply encrypt information in a given environment. And in that case, if you had a well-formed and tested backup strategy, that could be a very effective mitigation approach.
Hmm.
So ransomware authors and criminals got pretty smart, and they involved, or from their perspective, improved this method of extortion by not only encrypting data on site or sensitive data wherever it may be within an organization, but then also relying on a method of data exfiltration. And when those criminals can then ascertain that information, they have it in their own hands, it becomes that much more of a formidable threat when they're actually asking for payment in return for getting that information back.
Mhm. Well, let's talk about Kaspersky itself. I mean, what sets the company apart as a next-gen cybersecurity provider?
Overall, I mean, there are holistic differentiators that Kaspersky has had as a result of being in business for a long time and choosing a certain business method, a certain business model. Ours is one of being privately held. We're independent. We have a very, very healthy balance sheet, which means we offer stability in the organization, even in a volatile or down market. So we're not really beholden to shareholders. We're not beholden to venture capital investment in order to operate the way that we do, which provides agility and flexibility even when bad market conditions set in, as opposed to some organizations that are more reliant on public markets and investments.
Mhm.
Aside from that, we're also incredibly engineering driven. So about a third of our 4,000 employee base is devoted to research and development. And that equates to really excellence in efficacy. And that's something that our customers and our partners really, really like and enjoy about Kaspersky. And that proven effectiveness of our solutions is validated year after year by independent testing. I mean, I would also say that our mission at Kaspersky is to really help all users build a safer world for themselves. And same goes for our partners. And that certainly includes our industry and academia and government users, but that also extends to the consumer market. And unlike many of the security providers in our space who have chosen to divest certain parts of their business or split those parts of the business, we believe in the continued synergy between the consumer market and the commercial market.
Hmm.
Additionally, when you look at what's happened through the pandemic, people working from home, the need for protection on privately owned non-corporate devices has accelerated. So we now have exponentially more machines connecting to their corporate networks through home networks, which also have their personal household machines and every IoT device connected.
Mhm.
So we really think that level of protection and assurances needs to extend to the consumer market as well. And I think collectively, these bring a lot of differentiation to the market as it pertains to the way we operate as a company.
That's a really interesting point about, we live in this work from home world now. And so really in our home office, this is the consumer market, although we're actually working for the company and sometimes even a large corporation. So really, I guess really good security must combine the consumer market and the enterprise market. I hadn't thought of that. That's such a really interesting point. Um, let's talk to the future, because obviously you're very close to the market. I'd love to get your sense of where we're going in the next couple of years in terms of cybersecurity. I mean, and how can companies get ready for it now?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'd say an area where we at Kaspersky have focused for a long time and one that we'll continue to watch very closely, is that of critical infrastructure and even non-critical operational technology, as you see, such as with manufacturing. And we have the Colonial Pipeline, which happened in May of 21, as a good recent example of advanced adversaries targeting a critical infrastructure environment and then temporarily halting operations for a company that provides roughly 45% of the US East Coast gasoline. So certainly the impact and the effects that those types of threats can have on critical infrastructure are a little different than regular IT environments. I mean, if you think about healthcare and connected devices in healthcare, if you have some kind of a threat that impacts the operational technology that drives something like an insulin pump or a heart monitor, those types of things can result in injury or even loss of life. So while more of these threats are very likely to loom, we also know that the convergence of operational technology and information technology will continue, and that operational technology will continue to be more connected. And that means the surface area for potential attack will continue to increase. The other piece of this, which we predict will exacerbate that situation, is that the work from home mindset shift, which is again mainly driven by the pandemic, was going to put a lot of pressure on critical infrastructure and operational technology companies to try and accommodate employees' preferences wherever possible. It won't be possible in every circumstance, but wherever possible, with the risk of potentially losing really good talent, really good employees if they choose not to. So that'll just open up many more vectors that have to be thought about. And in response to that, I think organizations really need to be mindful of this trend and begin to seek out solutions that would securely enable that kind of a transition. So, Kaspersky provides a broad range of cyber solutions specifically for ICS and OT environments. And we anticipate this to be a trend that informs many of the advancements and the innovations that our suite of products in this space will continue to deliver in the future.
It's interesting. There's no doubt that the attack vectors are going to continue to get bigger and bigger. I think it's clearly true. It's going to be an interesting sector to watch. Rob, thanks so much for sharing your expertise today. Totally appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks again for having me, James.